Morning. Oh, come on. We can do better than that. Good morning. And if you have not said good morning to somebody at your table, turn to somebody at your table and say good morning. Now turn to somebody else at the table that you've not said good morning to and say good morning. Now turn to someone else at the table and say, I'm glad you're here. Because I truly am glad y'all here this morning. I'm glad. Let's take a moment and take a deep breath. One more time. I've been asked to come this morning and talk about, before I do that, what I know to be true, I'm an introvert. Y'all wouldn't know that by me being up here this morning. But I know for some of the introverts in the room, that was a challenge. But I've been asked to talk about transformative conversations, conversations that move us closer to ending sexual violence. And what better place to start to practice that than with the simplicity of a good morning? The simplicity. So some of the most transformative conversations we can have every day start with us making eye contact with somebody else we encounter and saying, good morning. Hello. How are you? I'm glad to see you. There's something about that because it creates an opportunity for us to connect, for us to acknowledge not only their presence, but the presence of spirit that you have encountered. When you take the time to connect, what you're saying to that person is, I see you. And not only do I see you, I invite you to see me. I invite you to see me in all my fullness. It's a transformative conversation. Some of you won't be coming to my workshop, so I invite you to try it out today. When you're seeing folks in the hallway and they have their badge on, take the time to connect and see if the energy shifts by you merely connecting with the person you've encountered. Something as simple as taking a deep breath in and blowing it out, when done with mindful intention, becomes a transformative conversation with the divine, with spirit, an opportunity to set our intention for the day, an invitation for spirit to not only breathe through you, but to breathe to you, and to work through you, and to work through your encounter with everyone else you may have during the day. What I know to be true is talking about spirit for some people is uncomfortable. And as a minister, what I know to be true is that part of why talking about spirit is uncomfortable is because we as the church has done a poor job about doing our part to bring spirit into the open conversation. Sometimes we've been the offender, and for that, I apologize. If you've never received an apology from the church, you got one this morning. We apologize for not doing our part. But when I talk about spirit, I'm not tying it to any particular faith tradition, any particular practice. I'm talking about that life-giving energy that has the capacity to bring wholeness to a broken existence. That life-giving energy that seeks itself in the other. That life-giving energy that transports itself from the past to the present, and it drives us into a future of wholeness that we as humanity can't even begin to capture and imagine. That level of spirituality, that level of existence is what I'm talking about. That energy that draws your desire to connect with the other. In our work to end sexual violence, what I know to be true is that we have not yet experienced that magnitude of transformative abundance. We've not experienced that because we have not encouraged folks to bring their individual spirituality into our various communities. What we have done is invited folks to leave their spirit at the door and to treat it like it's some type of accessory. Leave it at the door when you arrive at work and pick it up on your way out. I've been asked to spend a little bit of time about bringing your spirit to ending violence, but the more and more I've thought about that, The more and more I gave it some energy, what I realized is that that's more the individualistic aspect that we as a society have brought into. Spirit is more communal. It desires to connect. And so if you allow me a little latitude, I want to shift the phrase a little bit to modify that to say we're going to unleash our spirit on the movement to end sexual violence. Because what I know to be true is that we all bring our spirit to our work. You may not call it that, and the person sitting in the cubicle next to you may not know that's what you're making decisions out of. But everybody shows up and brings some version of spirit to work. But we have been done poorly about unleashing that spirit on the movement to end sexual violence. So I think that's so I invite you today to think about that. Imagine, if you will, what that would mean for us as advocates. What would it mean for you as an ally? What would it mean for you as an activist, as a community organizer, as a comrade, as a teacher, as a fundraiser, as a counselor, or just somebody simply a co-conspirator? What would it mean if we embraced, encouraged, and nurtured spirit in ourselves and each other? Can you envision the power we could harness if we brought spirit to the party? What change could we affect if we brought spirit to the party? What do we lose by not showing up in our fullness of who we are? Who's not being helped because we failed to show up in our fullness? That's the question. We have power that we can unleash on a movement. If we embrace and encourage and nurture that spirit in ourselves and these others, we can generate and unleash that on this movement. And we can put an end to some of the foolishness we find ourselves caught up in. Imagine that. My friends, it's doable. I know some of y'all thinking that's just not doable. It's doable. I promise you it's doable. Because what I know to be true is that anybody who shows up in civil justice work, social justice work, movement building, community organizing, activism, whatever you want to call it, that's driven by justice, equality, and liberation, you haven't ended up here by accident. You're not here by accident. We are seekers of empowerment for the voiceless, for wholeness, for brokenness in the world we see. We stand in the gaps where systems have failed. And friends, these are deeply rooted spiritual principles, deeply rooted, that are alive and well in us. And your presence here is by invitation of spirit. Spirit, and when we accepted that invitation of spirit, we became a co-conspirator with spirit for the wholeness of a movement. When I became a co-conspirator with spirit for the movement, for wholeness, I became a co-conspirator with Aaron. I became a co-conspirator with you. You became a co-conspirator with her. She became a co-conspirator with him. We became co-conspirators. We became part of a network, my friends, of co-conspirators. A network that has an abundance of untapped power because we have not done a very good job of nurturing the very spirituality or life energy that brought us into the work to begin with. Nor have we effectively harnessed its collective power and unleashed it on our movement. The time is now to release it, unleash it. For many of us, we have a spiritual practice and we're in conversation daily with spirit. But spirit is waiting on us to have conversation with the person sitting in the next cubicle. It's waiting on us to put the pieces together. The beauty of having co-conspirators is knowing that you're not in this alone. You don't have to do it by yourself. It's not all on you. We're connected to something bigger, something greater, that the sum of our parts and the power of the ability to move obstacles that we can only begin to chip away at by ourselves. Can you imagine that? If I combine my energy, my spiritual energy with someone else's in the room, it enhances the gifts I bring to the table. It's not a pie. It's not going to run out. It only enhances what you have. If you want to see the fullness of your spiritual gift, if you want to see the fullness of your power, connect it to someone else's. Tap into the spiritual energy of somebody else. Trust me when I tell you the spiritual energy is in the room. It's in the room. It's past time for us to get real, for us to remove the mask, to get clear on what we bring and what we need to be our most effective and powerful selves on behalf of the communities we serve. In your workplace, how many people know your spiritual story? How many people know your spiritual story? How many people know about your spiritual life? How many people know which decisions you make, which policies you support, which associations and affiliations you pursue are directly influenced by your spiritual practice? Do they even know that you have a code of conduct that governs your life? And would it matter if they did? It would have to, is my answer. It would have to. If they knew, would it cause them to bring and unleash their own spiritual energy to the party? And how would it begin to shape the texture and the tones of conversations and decisions and outcomes that we pursue? If we're honest, whether we call it spirituality or something else, it shows up in our work and our relationships. We've got to get better at encouraging ourselves and our coworkers to connect to that spirituality. We got to get better at seeing the spirituality as essential to the work we do, as well as someone else's spirituality essential to the work they do. The time has come for us to bring spirit to its fullness. I'm delighted, and I understand I have 1 minute left. I know I'm on zero, but I'm going to wrap this up. In true minister's fashion, I'm going to just go 1 minute beyond. I'm delighted that this conference has decided to dedicate a track to discussions around faith and spirit. I would offer that it is the component, if done well, will move us closer to ending violence. You know, my friend and colleague Norma Wong proffers that I agree that it's the absence or alienation from spirit that makes violence possible. So my tack to that is this, that it begs the question of how our silence, our reluctance to encourage or nurture the spirit in ourselves, in our coworkers, in our community, has been complicit or frustrated even our best efforts to bring change in this movement and to bring an end to sexual violence. We can do better. We must do better, because we are ushering in a new world reality that our children are depending on. We must do better. Come on to the workshop. Let's finish talking about it.